Hey, what's up everyone? This is Snackbox. Hope you all are having an amazing day. Guys, today is the day where the Assassin's Creed collab will start, and I want to give you a full overview of everything we know so far, what you can expect, and how to prepare for those events and tournaments that are coming up. So the collab starts from today, like I said, January the 8th, and will end on April the 8th. So we have plenty of time to collect those time-limited assassins. There are 6 champions in total. 5 of them, as you can see here, will be assassins, which are time limited. For one, we have Ezio Auditore. As we already know, he will be the log-in champion. You can get him through a loyalty program just by logging in. After 7 days, you will receive the champion. And after 14 days, you will get his 5-star soul. Then we have Cassandra, which is the main character of Assassin's Creed Odyssey. And she will be the next fusion, which also starts today on January the 8th and is one of the first champions of the new faction Argonites. So definitely make sure to grab this champion. You want to get as many champions of that new faction as possible. On the very right side, we have Bayek, which is the main character of Assassin's Creed Origins, which played in Egypt. He will be a death-based Void Legendary champion from the Barbarians faction. Then on the left, next to Ezio, we have Edward Kenway, and he's the main character from Assassin's Creed Black Flag, and he will be one of the only characters that wields a gun. There are not many that do that. He's an attack type champion, Force Affinity, legendary from the Bannerlords faction. And last but not least, on the very left, we have Basim Ibn Ishaq, which will be an attack type champion as well, Force Affinity, legendary from the Sacred Order. But there will be one more champion that will be part of this collab, but he's not time limited, and that is Pontiff Augustine. This champion will be the new event dungeon boss. He's a Knights Revenant, Void legendary support champion. And there's something new about this event dungeon because we will get extra 5 stages. Previously, we only had 30 stages that we had to beat. Now we will get additional 5 stages with one-time rewards that you can get, such as relic mats, basalts, and starstone. So I already covered Ezio, Cassandra, and Pontiff Augustine in the last few videos. So now let's take a look at the new champions. So let's start off with Bayek. He's a legendary Void champion, defense type from the Barbarians faction, which is already pretty good. Defense type champions are usually pretty tanky, and also Void Affinity means no weak hits. His A1 attacks one enemy, places a leech debuff for 2 turns, and fills this champion's turn meter by 20%, can be booked 3 times, additional 20% damage. Not a bad A1. It's a 100% chance to place that leech. You don't need to book it necessarily. And also a 20% turn meter fill on an A1 is pretty juicy. The A2 is a 4-turn cooldown. Can be booked down to 3 and also just needs 3 books. Attacks all enemies. Places a decreased accuracy debuff and a decreased resistance debuff for 2 turns. Also places a provoke debuff on all enemies for 1 turn. If a target is under 3 or more debuffs, places a provoke debuff for 2 turns instead. This is an amazing skill. 2 very important debuffs for Chimera, for example, but also in general a very, very strong skill. The A3 places a 50% increased accuracy buff on all allies for 2 turns. Also places a perfect veil buff and a 60% increased defense buff on all allies except this champion for 2 turns. Places a 60% increased defense buff on this champion for 3 turns, then grants an extra turn. Wow, so there is a very nice synergy here. He's defense type and he's also buffing increased defense, so he pushes his own damage, which is pretty good. And then he's also pushing his own accuracy, which he needs in order to place those debuffs on the A2. And he gets an extra turn as well. So he's buffing himself, doing more damage, he's having more accuracy, which allows you to build him with less, and then he's placing those debuffs with his A2. Very nice synergy here, and this can be very effective. Now his passive, this champion and their allies cannot receive critical hits from enemies whose accuracy is equal to or lower than their own accuracy. So if you have more accuracy on your assassins, they won't get any critical hits, which is absolutely nuts. That's a lot of survivability for the assassins, and it feels like this guy is kind of like the assassin unity champion, because he's providing the veil for everyone, and he's, making sure that nobody gets crits if you have, more accuracy than the enemies. And normally nukers don't have a huge amount of accuracy. And then again, the usual assassin passive, everything is permitted. We already saw that on the other assassins. And then he has an all battles accuracy aura, which will be increased by 70. So yeah, to be honest, I think this champion looks very, very solid. And I can't wait to see the assassins in one team, how they will perform. It looks like they have a lot of survivability in general, also a lot of synergy with Veil. And I see a lot of potential here. We might have another Ninja Turtles situation here. Now let's move to Edward Kenway. He's a legendary Force Affinity attack type champion from the Bannerlords faction. His A1 attacks one enemy 3 times. Each hit has a 75% chance. If booked, it goes up to 100% chance of decreasing the target's turn meter by 15%, and each hit will decrease the target's turn meter by 25% instead if the attack is critical. This effect cannot be resisted if this champion is under Veil or Perfect Veil. So again, a Veil synergy, and you also want to make sure he crits to get the full amount of turn meter decrease. On the A1, a free hitter, that means each hit will decrease the turn meter by 25%. If he crits, that's 75% turn meter decrease, and that is a lot. Now, you definitely don't want to use this A1 against Amarius, for example, right? Then the A2 is a 4-turn cooldown, can be booked down to a 3-turn cooldown. Attacks all enemies 2 times. The first hit steals all buffs from all enemies and decreases each enemy's turn meter by 20%. This effect cannot be resisted if this champion is under Veil or Perfect Veil. So again, Veil synergy, we have a buff steal and another turn meter reduction skill. The second hit has a 75% chance, 100% chance if booked, of placing a sleep debuff on all enemies for 1 turn. That is interesting. This debuff will ignore any block debuffs if the attack is critical. This effect cannot be resisted if this champion is under Veil or Perfect Veil. So again, you want him to crit if you want to place that sleep, but I don't know where this would be nice to have. Besides Sand Devil, I don't see any content where sleep is super necessary. But again, it's a 2-hitter on an AoE attack, which is pretty nice, and maybe he can deal a lot of damage. The A3 is a 5-turn cooldown, can also be booked down to a 3-turn cooldown, attacks one enemy before attacking, places a Perfect Veil buff on this champion as well as any other assassins on the team for 2 turns, will ignore shield, stone skin, and block damage, places a block revive debuff if the target is killed. Wow, this is an amazing skill. So for one, he's self-buffing that Perfect Veil and is also buffing every other assassin. For example, Cassandra doesn't provide the Veil. She cannot buff herself. But the most important part here is that this skill will ignore stone skin and block damage as well as shield, right? And if you kill the target, he's block revived. This is a very, very strong skill on a Force Affinity champion. That is massive. The only downside with this champion so far is that he's attack based, and that means he might be a little bit squishier, but maybe that will change with his passive. Let's keep on reading. So again, we have the everything is permitted passive like every other assassin, but he also has a unique passive, and each hit inflicted by this champion has a 50% chance of placing a 100% ensnare debuff on their target for 2 turns. Whenever this champion kills an enemy, places a 100% ensnare debuff on all other enemies for 2 turns and decreases their turn meter by 20%. Wow, so another champion with ensnare. Pontiff Augustine does it as well. What it does is basically it reduces the turn meter fills of the enemy team where the ensnare is on, and it slows them down basically. So these effects cannot be resisted if this champion is under Veil or Perfect Veil. Again, more synergy with Veil. This champion inflicts 20% more damage against targets under Ensnare. Wow, 20% more damage is a lot. So yeah, we have a single target attack here that ignores shield, stone skin, and block damage. That is pretty good. But, again, it's a single target attack. It might be enough to take out the enemy damage dealer, for example, and then he's block revived as well. So that skill is very, very strong. I think he might be a very solid option for PvP. I can see him definitely be a threat to a lot of these magic affinity block damage champions. And also Stone Skin, right? A lot of people still use Stone Skin. It will take some time until people move towards Mercurial. It will take a couple of rotations till people can assemble a proper set. And then last but not least, we have Basim Ibn Ishaq, another legendary champion, force affinity, attack type from the Sacred Order faction, like Ezio. Attacks one enemy 2 times. This is the A1. Each hit has a 50% chance of placing a weaken debuff for 2 turns. Then has a 50% chance of applying a debuff spread effect, taking one random debuff from the target and placing it on all enemies. If this champion is under Veil or Perfect Veil, the chance increases to 100%. Wow, this is actually amazing. Debuff spread with weaken or just spreading any debuff. This can be quite nice for Hydra purposes if you want to spread debuffs on all the other heads as well. But just in general, having weaken on A1 is very nice. The A2 attacks all enemies, will ignore 15% of each target's defense, will ignore 30% of each target's defense instead if this champion is under Veil or Perfect Veil. Wow, that's a lot of def ignore here. So you definitely want to make sure he has that Veil buff. Has a 75% chance of placing a block active skills debuff for 2 turns. This chance goes up to 100% if booked. This debuff will ignore any block debuffs if this champion is under Veil or Perfect Veil. Wow, so you cannot block this block active skills. It will definitely place. The only way you can block it is with Stone Skin, maybe, or Mercurial, for example. But other than that, you can't really block it. But so far, you can resist it, okay? The A3 attacks one enemy 2 times, deals 5% more damage for each buff and debuff on this champion, and 5% more damage for each buff and debuff on the target. Stacks up to 100% more damage. That is a lot of damage, okay? That is crazy. Places a Perfect Veil buff on this champion for 3 turns and grants an extra turn. Wow, so he's self-buffing with Perfect Veil, which is a nice thing to have, right? You need it kind of so the block active skills won't get blocked or can't be blocked. And then you also increase the chance to place weaken and spread a debuff. Also, what I like about those extra turn stuff is that you place those buffs for 3 turns, so you will have it another 2 turns after you take that extra turn. That is pretty nice. Then we have that assassin passive, and his unique passive. Whenever this champion is attacked, steals 1 random buff from the attacker and transfers 1 random debuff from this champion to the attacker. These effects will ignore polymorph, occurs once per skill. Wow. So this passive seems pretty nasty. It looks like he can steal buffs, but also transfer debuffs from him. And you can not be polymorphed, right? So that is huge. Will ignore 25% of the target's resistance when using skills if this champion is under Veil or Perfect Veil buff. Oh, wow. 25% resistance is a lot. So I think he looks very nasty, okay? A lot of def ignore going on here. Block active skills that cannot be blocked if he's under Veil. He's stealing buffs. He's transferring debuffs. Cannot be polymorphed for that. So yeah, I think he looks awesome. All right, so let's take a look at the whole thing, okay? So if we put those assassins together, it looks like they are very, very strong. We have a crazy passive, which is kind of an execute thing, right? So they all work very well together. They have nice synergies. They provide survivability for each other, but also more damage. So yeah, it looks like, we have a lot of lockout here as well and control if you put them together. So yeah, it looks like a very strong offensive team with a lot of damage potential, but also a lot of survivability and control. So yeah, I think, you know, if you put those 5 together, you have a very, very strong team, in my opinion. And it might be, you know, even more powerful than the Ninja Turtles team because you have 5 of them, basically. So yeah, like I already said, Pontiff Augustine is the only champion out of this collab that won't be time limited. You will be able to pull him after this collab ends. He will be the new event dungeon boss. We can get Chronophage from this event dungeon, as well as new event relics from the last 5 stages that are one-time rewards. Most likely, we will get a lot of events and tournaments where you can grab those new event relic mats. Last time we had a couple of those, like Heroes Paths, Champ Chase tournaments, just tournaments and events in general. And I think it will be the same thing here in this collab. Now you might wonder, how can you get those champions, those Assassin's Creed champions that are time limited? If we take a look at previous collaborations, we always had a fusion, which is now Cassandra. We had a daily login champion, which is Ezio. Then we had a guaranteed champion from a deck of fate. We don't know which one, but it's most likely going to be the case. We were able to get a champion from a Hero's Path. In the Ninja Turtles collab, it was Leo. Might be the case here as well. And then we were able to get Shredder, and, you know, on the other collabs, it was Odin, and then Queen of Hearts, and so on, from a Champ Chase tournament that you need to win, where 50 people are placed in a tournament, and the winner that's placing first in this tournament will get the guaranteed champion as a reward. That's what you can expect this time, but we have 6 champions in total, so I don't know how they will introduce all of them. Like I said, we can expect something similar to previous collaborations. Now, one last thing, there will be 2 Assassin's Creed themed avatar frames. Only one will be available as a reward in one of the events, and the other one can be obtained by collecting all Assassin's Creed related champions. So that's Cassandra, Edward Kenway, Ezio Auditore, Basim Ibn Ishaq Bayek, and Pontiff Augustine. And if you collect all of those 6 and you get this avatar, you also get a special badge, which is called the Master Assassin. So yeah, guys, that's been pretty much it for this video. I think I covered pretty much everything that we know so far. Regarding the events and tournaments where you can get those guaranteed champions from this collab, most likely we will get the information about those events and tournaments like 24 to 48 hours prior. That's normally how they do it. They won't give us any information a week or 2 weeks before those events and tournaments go live. At least it was never the case before, and I don't expect it this time. So with that being said, thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you enjoyed, please hit the like button. It really goes a long way. Also subscribe to the channel if you want to see more raid content. The YouTube algorithm is going to suggest you a video that you might like right here, and see you in the next one.